So guys, we are still in the spirit of celebrating Manchester United's third consecutive win in a row in the Premier League, and how Ruben Amorim has been enjoying himself after some tactical tweaks in Manchester United. And previously on Tactical Trafford, we have been able to talk how Ruben Amorim has been evolving and how tactically advanced Ruben Amorim has been for Manchester United. But today we want to actually talk about how the direct style and approach of Ruben Amorim has actually suited the players of Manchester United more, like Bryan, Mbeumo, Matheus, Cunha, Bruno Fernandes, Amad Diallo, and so on. And so today we want to actually talk about what Ruben Amorim, how he has transformed the mentality of Manchester United players in and out of possession. We want to talk about how the initial system of Ruben Amorim during the start of the season was very flawed. We definitely have to agree that during the start of the season, the system of Ruben Amorim was very flawed. He was doing a lot of things wrong. He was prioritizing a positional and a more controlled style in and out of position. He was prioritizing a slow ball progression strategy, which was very bad for Manchester United. Manchester United were really struggling, and it actually never suited the players of Manchester United. But in today's video, we want to talk about how Ruben Amorim has actually integrated a more direct style in Manchester United, how Manchester United play more direct in and out of possession, and how it is beginning to suit the players of Manchester United. I actually need to ask several questions before we talk about this time. And one of the questions we are going to ask in course of making this video is that we actually need to ask what is the mindset of the player after the first few minutes of regaining possession from the opposition. And we actually need to talk about how this direct style and vertical ball playing style has actually evolved the playing of Manchester United. So guys, let's dive into this video together and try to analyze all the bits of Manchester United tactical analysis. Sorry guys for interrupting the video. I actually want you guys to help me to watch this video to the end. We are trying to hit monetization on Tactical Trafford, and we are trying to hit 3,000 watch hours in the next 90 days. So I want you guys to please watch this video to the end. So guys, the first bit of change we actually saw from Ruben Amorim was actually in the Burnley game, because you all know that in the build-up of Ruben Amorim, he likes to form a possession box. Definitely the two central backs are going to split wide with the goalkeeper forming a three-man back. And then probably Matheus is going to form a pivot with Bruno Fernandes or Casemiro. And then probably the wing backs are also going to drop deep to try to build up from the back. But one of the flaws of this system is that all the players are definitely going to drop reasonably back. The midfield pivots are also going to be constantly dropping deep to try to build up, to link up with the defensive line. But you definitely have to agree that this system is flawed, because it made Manchester United not to be able to play very well from the back. It made us not to be able to play comfortably, effectively from the middle. So that would mean that Manchester United would always want to go to the wing. And definitely we know in the Premier League these days, majority of the teams in the Premier League are very good in pressing. So what they actually looked to do was to press Manchester United on the touchline, try to squeeze us as much as possible and try to regain possession as much as possible. So this was what the opposition team was looking to do. And so this was why this build-up system from Ruben Amorim was really, really bad, because both the back line and the midfield pivot are being told to drop relatively deep, and then they struggle in building up from the middle. They actually end up building up from the wings, which definitely does not work for Manchester United. So this was how Manchester United has been building, and it has definitely really destroyed Manchester United. I think the only advantage of this formation is that since the midfield pivots are dropping really deep, it's going to cause the opposition midfield to also drop really deep, and this is also going to leave like spaces behind for the Manchester United attackers to exploit. But one of the issues you also have to note with this formation is that the midfield pivots are going to be relatively far from the attacking line. So it's going to be like a situation whereby Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro are very far from Matheus, Cunha, Bryan, Mbeumo, and Benjamin Sesko. And so this is going to cause them to be covering 20 to 30 yards in every game. And this system is definitely not optimal, even if Manchester United have gotten players like Elliot Anderson, Carlos Baleba, talk less of with Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro. So it made Manchester United to actually struggle in our first 3 games of the Premier League season. Manchester United, we are struggling to build up. Our build up was very predictable. It was very easy for teams in the Premier League to be able to catch Manchester United and try to press us and squeeze us. So what Ruben Amorim actually changed for Manchester United was that he decided to push both the central backs and the midfield pivot relatively high. And so when he pushes them upward, he's going to go long from the goalkeeper. And then when he goes long from the goalkeeper, then Manchester United are going to try to win those second balls or those loose balls as much as possible. So this was the system that Manchester United was trying to use, trying to go long from the goalkeeper, push the central backs and the midfield pivots very high, and try to win those second balls and those loose balls. And so this was how Ruben Amorim actually tried to resolve the build-up issues of Manchester United. And so it is relatively easy for the Manchester United pivots to cover maybe 5 to 10 yards per game rather than covering 20 to 30 yards every game. So guys, I think the highest change that has been made by Manchester United this season is basically how direct we play after winning possession. So in this first example, you're going to find out that Casemiro intercepted the ball and then it gets to Matheus de Ligt. Definitely, you know that in previous seasons, Matheus de Ligt is definitely going to be passing to Lemans or is going to be passing to Euro. But in this situation, he doesn't do that because Ruben Amorim instructs them to be very brave and to be very different in possession. So Ruben Amorim has instructed the players to be playing in a very direct style and in a very direct approach. So instead of trying to hold the ball, trying to recycle possession for Manchester United, which is obviously going to make the opposition team, which is Brighton, to be vertically and horizontally very compact. I mean, in the Premier League these days, teams are very good in pressing, they are very good in cutting off those half spaces, they are very good in driving opposition team very wide. So what Ruben Amorim is instructing the players to do is actually to play more direct, to play those less probability passes, high risk passes, which is definitely either going to cause Manchester United to score a goal or definitely going to cause Manchester United to concede. So this is actually the dilemma of Manchester United recently. Ruben Amorim wants them to take more risks. He has been saying it last season that the defenders are not really that brave. They don't take a lot of risks. I think probably it was only Lisandro Martinez that was taking all the risks for Manchester United last season. So this season we are beginning to see the defenders of Manchester United to do differently. So you could see that in this situation, instead of the lead to recycle with his defenders and try to make Manchester United to hold this position, to deploy a slow ball progression strategy, instead he passes to Bruno Fernandes, and definitely Bruno Fernandes tries to exploit the spaces between the wingers of Brighton and the midfielders of Brighton, because you're going to find out that in that game, when Brighton are in possession, their wingers are really going to press high. They are really going to be like really on top of the pitch, which is going to create a lot of spaces between the wing backs and their full backs and their midfield pivots. And so the lead giving that ball one time to Bruno Fernandes is going to let Manchester United to exploit those spaces, to exploit those hard spaces before the Brighton's team and their midfielders and their defensive line can be able to reset and be in their more compact shape. So in the next example, you're going to find out that Shaw wins a ball from Ruta, and definitely you would expect Diego Dalot to actually recycle with his defensive line or to recycle with Lemans as usual, as Manchester United likes to play backward passes, because last season Manchester United was the team that played one of the highest backward passes in the Premier League, and this is something that I actually complained here in Trafford. I've actually analysed it also during the preseason. Manchester United were used to playing those back passes, but in this situation Dalot immediately passes to Benjamin Šeško, and Benjamin Šeško definitely beats his defender, passes immediately to Bryan Mbeumo, which actually led to Bryan Mbeumo's first goal in the game. So this is how Ruben Amorim has been able to transform the mentality of the players. They actually now play more direct passes, more risky passes, instead of letting the opposition to actually settle in and try to be in their compact shape. We take them on our way and try to take advantage of our attacking superiority in games. So guys, you actually have to be very honest with ourselves. If Ruben Amorim has continued with his positional slow ball progression strategy, actually Manchester United players like Matheus, Cunha, Bryan Mbeumo, Amad Diallo, Bruno Fernandes, they actually would have not really played well for Manchester United. Their potential wouldn't have actually come out like it is actually starting to come out, because these are players that are actually used to the transitional style. Cunha was playing in the transitional style in Wolves. Bryan Mbeumo was always used to playing in the transitional team in Brentford, in Troyes. So Amad Diallo, definitely Bruno Fernandes, these are players that are used to playing in transitional styles. They are not players that like to they are not players that likes to be controlled in game, that actually likes to stick to one position. These are players that likes to play in numerous positions, that like to have their freedom, they like to exploit the weaknesses of the opposition when their defensive shape and their compact shape are being exploited or not in balance. So this definitely, you could also watch the game against Arsenal or the game against Fulham. You're going to find out that Ruben Amorim was trying to make Manchester United to play in a more positional style, to play in a more controlled way, in a more slow ball progression strategy style, and it was not really working. Definitely Bryan Mbeumo wouldn't have been able to score this much goals that he has scored. Cunha wouldn't have scored because he would have been more farther away from goal. And you all know that when Bryan Mbeumo was in Brentford, he was the player that was always ahead of everybody. He was even also ahead of the striker of Brentford as at last season. So he's a player that likes to be very close to goal. He's a player that likes to be ahead of everyone during the counter attacks. And now trying to use Bryan Mbeumo to play in a more deeper role, trying to use him to try to control possession, to play a slow ball progression style from the back. It was definitely not going to work, and his output would have actually been limited, and definitely would have been blaming the abilities of the players, because this old system of Ruben Amorim actually it depended on the natural ball playing abilities of the players. The system was not meant to bring out the best in the player, but it was taking a lot from the players. But I feel with this new direct style, this new transitional style, Manchester United are going to be seeing a lot from Matheus Cunha, because definitely he's going to be more closer to goal than farther from goal. Bryan Mbeumo is seeing Amad Diallo. You are beginning to see a lot of combination between Bryan Mbeumo and Amad Diallo. Manchester United is beginning to play more well, so we are definitely going to be expecting a lot from this Manchester United team in the coming games. So I want you guys to like, to share, to subscribe to Tactical Trafford, as we'll be making more videos about the tactics of Ruben Amorim here on Tactical Trafford.